guys, welcome back to my channel. We're making a game similar to the game The Binding of Isaac. In the last video we made this bug thing. This project is available for download for free in the description of the video, so if you want you could follow the series. It's a lot of videos at this point, and there's quite a lot that goes into getting this to this level, but you could download the entire thing for free up to this point. It's just in the description of the video for free. In this video, so for our previous enemies, we've made it so that different colors represent different difficulties. So there's a green zombie that does 1 damage, there's a yellow zombie that has more health and it does 2 damage, there's a red zombie, it does 3 damage, and there's a black zombie that does 4 damage or something, I don't remember. But anyway, so I've done the same thing here, so let me just delete this one for right now. So there's I've made 4 variants of this, so let me just put the yellow one. So it's the same exact thing, but we've just changed the colors. Now, the purpose of this video is to show you how you can change the colors, because in the tutorial that we followed previously, this is green. So you can't, if you want to make the monster yellow, you can't just multiply it by yellow, because green multiplied by yellow doesn't actually equal yellow. And because green is darker than yellow, you can't multiply it to get yellow unless you know, like you'd have to do some serious math to figure that out or whatever. And we're not going to do it like that. We're going to do it in a different way. And so if you don't want to have to do this, if you go to do the painting of the object, you could paint this in black and white. And then if you multiply it by a color, because white is 0, then you could multiply it and it would apply the color correctly. But because we didn't do that, this is not black and white, it's green, and you can't change green to yellow via multiplication. So I'm going to show you the other variants that I have. So it's not just the character, his attack is also yellow, his explosion is yellow, his death effect is yellow, everything about him is yellow. And I'll show you the other variants that we have. Hang on, let me just, I'm going to delete him. And so I made a red one as well. And then lastly, there's a black one. And so the red one does 3 damage if he hits you, and then the black one will kill you immediately if he hits you. Oh, it didn't go in the enemies folder. I mean, the enemies folder doesn't really matter. This room is not actually, I just enabled this by force. I just turned this room on by setting it to be active. That's not how you usually get to this room. And he doesn't shoot a black ball. Instead, he just shoots it. Oh, there we go. Okay, I'm dead. Yeah, so we're going to be dealing with like the different, he's hitting my head. We're going to be dealing with like the different colors today. And yeah, if you guys are enjoying the series, you can download the entire project for free from the description of the video. If you're enjoying the series, make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Alright, so here we are. This is where we left off in the last video. So we made this bug in the last video from start to finish, and that was a very long video. So if you want to see how to make this bug in Blender and like model it and do everything from start to finish, that was done in the last video. So you're welcome to watch that if you want to. So this is kind of where we are right now. And so we want to change, the first thing we're going to do is change his skin to yellow. So I just copy pasted this image into a new folder so I can start from scratch so you can see all the steps. So if you right click at the bottom here, we're going to create a lit shader graph, and we'll just call this bug. Yeah, bug material yellow. It doesn't matter. And then if you right click the shader, you can create a material which will automatically pick this shader from the drop down at the top. If it doesn't, you can click this drop down and type in a bug material, whatever you called it. Click on it, and then that'll be great. So we're going to drag this shader onto the bug, and you can see that screws up his color, and his eyes are also yellow. So what we're going to do is, if we create another new material, we can call this yellow bug eyes, and we can drag that onto the eyes. And so now we don't have any color left at all, which is fine. So on the right side here, turn on the emission, just pick a yellow color, and you could turn this up just slightly. It doesn't need to be too bright. And if this is too like white in the middle, you could technically just make it a little bit more yellowy just by dragging this a little bit more to the right. So I think that looks good. It's fine. So now we want to add the material and have it be yellow. So let's go ahead and double click on the shader graph, and I'll just pop this out here, and we'll close the Blackboard and the graph inspector for now. So we just have the shader graph. All right, so we want to drag the image into the shader. And if you connect this directly to the base color, You can press save and you should have a color that's exactly the same as the tutorial color that we initially had. Because it has green in the picture, it will just automatically default to green. So I'm going to show you what I meant. So if you try to multiply this by a color and we set the color to yellow, you can see that it's not actually yellow because yellow is a lighter color than green. So when you multiply yellow by green, it doesn't make yellow. It's just still kind of green. So there's like a lot of ways around this. The way that I like to get it, like you could add to this. Let's try adding. So instead of multiply, let's change this to add. And we'll try with a color. See, adding doesn't do it. So when you add yellow and green, because it's more, it adds the two together and the whole thing is yellow. So this is not going to work either. So let's get rid of both of these. The thing that I did to do this is I used the hue node. So if you put this into a hue node, you can change the hue value, like the offset, and this will actually change it. So instead of using a color, if you set this to like 290, and the way that you could figure out the color is you don't actually need to do the math or anything like that. If you just drag this, there's like this X is actually a dragger. You can just drag this and then you can just drag it to the color that you want. The other thing you could do is I think in artistic, there's a bunch of options under, is it utility? No. Adjustment. Yeah, that's it. So there's another one for the channel mixer, that's the one. So if you put this into a channel mixer, you can turn the different colors up and down and it will affect the output. So if you turn the red down and you turn the green up, you can make yellow like that as well. I prefer the hue because it doesn't, like if you're dragging the hue, you'll eventually just get the color that you want. It can't go to black though. So you will never get the hue to actually have like a black and white. So for the black and white one, I think I use color replace to do that. I'm going to show you that in a minute, but let's just stick to this for right now. So if you drag this to the base color, this fixes this. And you can just play with this until you get the shade of yellow that you actually want. So it's probably more like this that we actually want. So if you go to the game view, you can see this is very similar to the one that I had in the preview at the beginning. All right, so to make the black and white one, we just have to split the colors into an add node. So when you add the red and the green values like this, it gets rid of the color. Now we didn't include blue because green doesn't have any blue in it. It's only red and green. So depending on your input, you don't actually need to add blue. You can add blue if you want to. You would just have to add another complete add node. So like if you put this into an add node and the B value, and then you add this to this, this is the same thing because there is no blue in the color. So we don't have to do that. But if you had blue here as well, like if you had a color that had all three of the colors in it, then if you want to make it have everything, then you would need to add them together. So when you do this, it actually takes away the color. And then we're using the lerp node to darken it because this is super duper white. And I want the output to be black. So I lerped the colors between, we don't want to just like do color replace or something like that because all of it will go black and it will be like full, like it won't be a gradient of black. And so you want the gradient there. So lerp is linear interpolation. And so this takes the numbers that are 0 and 1 and anything, it's at a 96% value towards black. So it moves this to become 96% more black based on the colors that are already there. So this gives you like a really good looking shade of black. And let me just show you what it looks like. So if we go to the scene, this is the bug that we were working on. And I'll drag the black bug enemy onto this. And that's actually the prefab. That's not what I wanted. I need the material. Hang on. Black bug material. And then the black eye shader. I just made these his eyes white because black eyes can't glow and I want to have the glow. You could technically make a glow if you use like a particle system or something like that with like black, but you can't really have like a black actual glow around the eyes. So you would need to do something to improvise that. And I didn't bother. It would be too much. So that's how you can make the black one. All right, and now we're going to take a look at the red slime shader. So this is the attack that we made in the previous video. So if you didn't watch the previous video, we're not going to go through the entire process. The last video was well over an hour, and this video is not going to be an hour. It's going to be like 20 minutes max or something. So this is looking super cool. It's the exact same as the last one, except for now it's red. So we used hue the same way. So let me just bring up this. So this is the visual effect graph that does this, and it's identical to the green one. But the difference is that we've incorporated a color hue. Now we also incorporated a Boolean value, which all of these values are generated from the shader graph. So in this slime shader additive, which again, we made this in the last one, anything that's in the blackboard will show up in the visual effect graph for you to edit. So we've added color hue and we added replace color. Now, unfortunately, replace color, this Boolean branch nodes do not work so because we're using this shader inside of the visual effect graph, we have a branch node here. For some reason, branch nodes don't do anything. So if you turn this off or on, maybe in the newer version of Unity, I'm using Unity 2 point something, and the new version of Unity is Unity version 6. So somehow between the release of my first video here, which I was using the newest version of Unity at the time, now there's a version 6. So I'm sure in the new version, they probably fix this, but the Boolean branch node doesn't do anything. So I've included this branch node, which I was going to use to turn this off and on. What I've done instead is if you set the hue to 0 here, you'll get the green color. And so if you want to change the color, you can just drag the hue. So the initial one, instead of using the Boolean, you just set the color hue to 0 and it'll be green. And then you can use the hue to change the color to this. And for the one that's black and white, I'll show you, hang on. I just did, so I created a new shader specifically for this, and I think I just is it just the one that we made for the attack? Okay, no. So this is the slime shader, and I just used replace color to replace parts of a simple noise. So the black one is not the same at all. It's like, let me drag it onto the thing. Hang on, it's not the same. Just drag it up here. So it's just white, and the parts that are cut away are based on the noise rather than the picture. The picture didn't work for this, so I just created a noise. It's very similar anyway, and it's working kind of the same. But again, you can't use hue to get black and white, so additive doesn't apply for black and white things. So I've just completely changed this altogether to work for black and white. But yeah, so this is how I made this for the green, the red, and the yellow ones. And then I had to use a completely different shader for the black one. And all of these attacks have their own prefab and their own VFX. So they're completely separated. And so after you're done editing it, if you drag it from here into the bottom, you would use this as its own prefab separate from the other prefabs that you have for the other ones. Okay, and the slime explosion is also the exact same thing because we're using the same shader to actually make the explosion as the attack itself. So it's just a burst of particles rather than being a constant stream of particles that are getting created. So this is how the yellow, it's kind of laggy. This is how the yellow one looks. I think this looks really, really good for like an attack explosion. I think it just has like the perfect little pop of like brightness, but it's not too much where it like takes over the view of the entire screen. And you can see that, again, we're just changing the color hue to make this happen. And because it's additive, the more particles that are on top of each other, the more bright the center will be. So as the particles disperse, they become less bright very quickly. I think this looks pretty good, to be honest, and it's just the exact same thing. Okay, and then we had to update some of the scripts to actually, because the different enemy colors have different amounts of damage. So this was the enemy attack script. This is getting attached to the attack that goes flying through the air at the enemy. And basically, the only thing we really added is the damage. I don't know if I covered this in the last video, but there's a code now that maintains the distance from the ground. So if the enemy shoots in this room that we're in, the ground is not level, and we want the enemy's attack to be at a certain distance from the ground. So if he shoots you and it goes uphill, it can still hit your character. It doesn't just get cut off by the ground. So this will move the enemy's attack upwards as it's flying towards the player, and the smoothing speed needs to be significantly higher, and the distance also needs to be higher. But basically, it casts a ray at the ground, and it will move it upwards away from the ground. So in case the level of the floor changes because it's a hill, the attack will stay at a certain distance from the ground so it can hit the player. That's what this code does. And then right here, where we're hitting our character and we're doing damage with the heart script that we made in one of the first videos, we're going to actually take into account the damage as a variable. So each of these bug enemies in the bottom part, like if you click on the attack for the enemy, where is it? Black slime attack, for example, you can see that this does 5 damage. So if it hits your player will take 5 damage rather than taking 1 damage. And so we've added that to the code. And I think that's maybe it. I probably messed with the individual bugs nav mesh speeds as well. So like if you go through the different nav mesh agents, I've probably made some of them faster based on how, like, the color, so that way the certain ones move and shoot faster and stuff like that. But you can play with that yourself. Most of that stuff is pretty self-explanatory. I think that's pretty much all I did to add the different variants of the enemies into the game, and then you just have to drag them into the enemies folder that you want or whatever. But that's gonna be it for today. I hope you guys are enjoying the series. If you are, make sure you like the video and subscribe to my